The late afternoon sun slid between the buildings, painting the sidewalk in stripes of orange and grey as cars crawled past the small stores on the corner. The city hummed with its usual noise, horns, distant sirens, people arguing about nothing and everything, and the metallic rattle of a delivery truck unloading cases of soda at a bodega. On the opposite side of the street, 3 young men walked with the casual energy of people who believed the world revolved around their next idea. Ethan led the way, phone in hand, camera already open, the lens pointing backward as he checked his own reflection. Behind him came Ryan, tall and restless, flipping a soda can between his fingers, and Marco, quieter but always there, the one who laughed a beat later than the others. They moved like a small pack, weaving through pedestrians, already talking about views, comments and sponsors. "Today has to hit harder," Ethan said, not lowering his voice. "The last video stalled at 50,000. We need something people can't scroll past." Ryan grinned, eyes scanning the world as if it were a catalogue of opportunities. "Relax, something always shows up." They reached an intersection where the light had just turned red. A group of office workers waited at the corner, eyes glued to their screens, while a food truck on the side street filled the air with the smell of grilled meat and onions. Near a garbage can, half in the shade of a tree, lay a dog, medium-sized, brown and white, with a worn collar and calm eyes that followed the movement of legs and feet without moving much else. "There," Ryan said, tapping Ethan's arm with the soda can. "Look at that guy, perfect." Ethan turned, raising the phone slightly. "Just a stray man." "Exactly," Ryan replied, already amused by a joke he had not fully formed. "Nobody cares. Watch this." Marco hesitated a step behind. He had seen enough of their videos to recognize that tone. "What are you thinking?" he asked, but his voice did not carry far. Ryan popped the can open with a loud snap, the hiss cutting through the traffic noise. A few drops splashed on his hand, sticky and sweet. The dog lifted its head a little, ears twitching, as if checking whether the sound meant food or trouble. Ethan instinctively raised the phone higher, framing the scene. Ryan, the can, the dog by the trash can, the busy city ignoring them. 3, 2, Ryan said, stepping closer. Marco glanced around. A woman at the bus stop looked bored, a delivery guy scrolled his phone, and a man in a dark jacket stood near the food truck with his back turned, hands in his pockets. Nobody seemed to care about 3 kids with a camera and a soda can. "Dude, maybe just—" Marco started. Ryan did not wait. He tipped the can forward and sent a brown arc of Coca-Cola flying through the air, the liquid catching the sun for a second before crashing onto the dog's head and back. Startled, the animal yelped and scrambled to its feet, shaking violently as the soda matted its fur. The can slipped from Ryan's hand and clattered to the ground, rolling in a sticky circle. Ethan laughed, the sound sharp and loud. The camera captured everything. The splash, the dog's confusion, Ryan stepping back with exaggerated surprise, Marco's half-formed protest. The dog turned once, as if trying to understand what had happened, then trotted away, tail low, disappearing between 2 parked cars. "Dude, that was insane," Ethan said, still laughing as he kept recording Ryan's face. "Say something for the video." Ryan puffed out his chest. "Don't mess with the kings of the street, man. We own this city." Marco forced a laugh, thin and unsteady. "Yeah, real hilarious." They started walking again, the event already turning into content in their minds. Ethan replayed the clip as they moved, tilting the screen so Ryan could see. They chuckled at the dog's reaction, at Marco's expression, at the way the soda had flown perfectly into frame. Ethan could already imagine the title, the thumbnail, the comments. Across the street, unnoticed, the man in the dark jacket had turned around when he heard the dog yelp. He did not laugh. His eyes followed the animal as it disappeared, watching the sticky fur and the way it shook its head, as if trying to get rid of something more than soda. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He shifted his gaze to the three young men, Ethan with the phone still raised, Ryan still smiling, Marco looking back over his shoulder with a trace of discomfort. The man studied their faces carefully, as if storing them in a place he would not forget. When the light changed, he crossed the street slowly, ignoring the impatience of drivers who wanted to move. He walked to the spot where the can had rolled to a stop, picked it up between two fingers, and looked at the brand, at the dark liquid still sloshing at the bottom. Then he raised his head and followed the direction they had gone, his eyes narrowing. Farther down the block, the trio turned the corner, already arguing about music choices and text on screen, their voices fading into the general noise of the city. None of them looked back. None of them noticed the man who watched them disappear, the can now crushed in his hand, with a quiet, deliberate squeeze. He dropped the flattened metal into a trash bin and pulled out his phone. There was no rush in his movements, no theatrics. He dialed a number from memory, waited a moment, and then spoke in a calm, even tone. "Find out who they are," he said. "3 kids. One with a phone, one with a soda can, one with a guilty face." He listened to the answer, his eyes fixed on the alley where the dog had gone. The collar, he knew, would be damp and sticky now. That thought did not sit well. "And make sure," he added quietly, "that they understand what they did." He ended the call and slid the phone back into his pocket. Around him, the city continued as if nothing had happened. Cars honked, someone laughed too loudly, a bus pulled up and opened its doors with a sigh. The man turned toward the alley and took a single step in that direction, then stopped. There would be time for the dog later. For now, there was something else to track. 3 faces, 1 video, and a line that had been crossed without a second thought. The sun dipped lower behind the buildings as the first streetlights flickered on, washing the corner in a pale glow. Somewhere in the distance, Ethan replayed the video once more, delighted by how clear everything looked on screen. He did not realize that, in another part of the same neighborhood, someone else was replaying the moment in his mind, not as a joke, but as a debt. And debts in this city were never left unpaid. The apartment smelled like pizza and energy drinks, cardboard boxes stacked on the counter next to a laptop that had been running since morning. Ethan sat cross-legged on the floor, phone propped against a cushion, watching numbers climb in real time. Views, shares, comments pouring in faster than he could scroll. The video had been live for less than 6 hours. 30,000 already, he announced, his voice carrying the kind of satisfaction that came from validation. "Check the replies, people are losing it." Ryan leaned over the couch, scrolling through his own feed. The thumbnail showed the exact moment the soda hit the dog, frozen mid-splash, the animal's surprised expression caught perfectly. Below it a flood of reactions, laughing emojis, angry faces, arguments spiraling into threads that went nowhere. "Some guy called us legends," Ryan said, grinning as he read aloud. "Another one says we should get banned. Same old internet nonsense." Marco sat at the kitchen table, staring at his own screen but not really seeing it. He had watched the video twice after Ethan posted it, each time feeling something tighten in his chest that he could not name. The dog had not done anything. It had just been sitting there, minding its business, and now thousands of people were watching it get humiliated for entertainment. "Maybe we should take it down," Marco said quietly. Ethan looked up, eyebrows raised. "What? Why?" "It's getting kind of messy in the comments. Some people are really angry." Ryan waved a hand dismissively. "That's the point, man. Controversy equals views. Let them argue. We're just sitting here watching the algorithm do its thing." Ethan nodded, already distracted by another notification. A small channel had reposted their clip with a reaction video. More exposure, more numbers. He refreshed the page and watched the count tick upward. 50,000. 60. The city outside the window hummed with evening traffic, unaware and unconcerned. Across town, in a place the three young men would never think to visit, the atmosphere was different. The office sat above a closed auto repair shop, accessible only through a side door that did not advertise itself. Inside, the walls were plain, the furniture minimal, a desk, 2 chairs, a shelf with a few books that looked more decorative than read. A single lamp cast warm light across the surface of the desk, where a man sat reviewing paperwork with the patience of someone who had learned long ago that rushing solved nothing. Vincent Moretti was 52 years old, with grey threading through dark hair and lines around his eyes that came from decades of watching, waiting, and deciding who deserved mercy and who did not. He wore a plain shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows, no jewelry except a watch his father had given him before prison. To anyone passing him on the street, he looked like a contractor, maybe a landlord, someone ordinary. But the people who knew him understood what the quietness meant. Vincent had built his reputation not through noise, but through consistency. Promises kept, debts collected, loyalty rewarded. He did not raise his voice because he did not need to. When Vincent Moretti said something would happen, it happened. A knock came at the door. Vincent did not look up. "Come in." A younger man entered, early 30s, holding a phone like it carried something fragile. His name was Anthony, one of the few Vincent trusted with details that mattered. He crossed the room and placed the phone on the desk, screen facing up. "You need to see this," Anthony said carefully. Vincent set down his pen and picked up the phone. The video started automatically, shaky camera work, city noises in the background, 3 young faces laughing, then the soda can, the arc of brown liquid, and the dog flinching as the stream hit. The animal shook itself, confused and dripping, before retreating between parked cars. Vincent's expression did not change as he watched. He replayed the video once, then a second time, this time pausing on the dog's face. The white patch around its left eye, the worn leather collar, dark blue, with a small metal tag hanging from it. He set the phone down slowly and leaned back in his chair. The office was silent, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator in the corner and the distant groan of a truck passing on the street below. "That's Cisco," Vincent said, his voice even, almost conversational. Anthony nodded. "I recognized the collar. Figured you'd want to know." Cisco had wandered into Vincent's life 3 years earlier, skinny and cautious, nosing around the alley behind the shop. Vincent had fed him scraps from lunch, expecting the dog to move on. Instead, Cisco stayed. No leash, no commands, just a quiet understanding between a man who valued loyalty and an animal that offered it without conditions. The dog slept in the shop most nights, followed Vincent on walks through the neighborhood, and waited patiently outside restaurants that did not allow animals inside. People who worked for Vincent knew better than to mess with the dog. It was not a rule anyone had to explain. Vincent picked up the phone again and scrolled to the comments section. Thousands of strangers debating whether the video was funny or cruel, whether the dog was a stray or owned, whether anyone should care. He read a few, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly, then handed the phone back to Anthony. "Find them," Vincent said. Anthony took the phone. "Already working on it. The video's public. Posted from a profile linked to a YouTube channel. Kid's got his face all over social media. Should have names and addresses by tonight." Vincent nodded once, his fingers tapping a slow rhythm on the desk. "No rush, just make sure it's accurate." "What do you want done?" Vincent was quiet for a moment, his eyes fixed on a spot somewhere past Anthony's shoulder, as if looking through the wall to the street beyond. He thought about Cisco, shaking off the soda, confused but not aggressive, the way the dog never was. He thought about the laughter in the video, the carelessness, the assumption that nothing mattered because it was all just content. "Nothing yet," Vincent said finally. "Let me know when you have everything." Names, addresses, who they live with, where they work, all of it. Anthony understood the tone. This was not anger in the explosive sense. It was something colder, more deliberate. Understood. As Anthony turned to leave, Vincent spoke again, his voice still calm. "And check on Cisco. Make sure he's cleaned up and fed." "Already did. He's downstairs, doing fine." Vincent allowed himself a small nod. "Good." The door closed, leaving Vincent alone with the paperwork and the lamplight. He sat for a long moment, motionless, before picking up his pen and returning to the documents in front of him. But his mind was elsewhere, running through possibilities, measuring consequences, deciding how to handle disrespect that had been broadcast to the world. By midnight, the video had passed 200,000 views. Ethan celebrated with another slice of cold pizza, already planning the next upload. Ryan scrolled through hate comments and laughed at the creativity of strangers. Marco turned off his phone and tried to sleep, though the image of the dog kept circling back. None of them knew that their names were already written on a piece of paper in a quiet office above a repair shop. None of them understood that the joke they had made for views had reached someone who did not forgive easily. And in the shop below, Cisco lay on a folded blanket, clean and dry, his collar gleaming under the overhead light. Vincent came down the stairs near 1 in the morning, checked the locks, and crouched beside the dog. Cisco lifted his head, tail wagging once. "Don't worry," Vincent said quietly, scratching behind the dog's ears. "We'll take care of it." The dog settled back down, trusting, unaware. But Vincent stayed there a moment longer, his hand resting on the animal's head, his mind already several steps ahead into a plan that would unfold with the same patience he applied to everything else. Debts, he knew, were not about speed. They were about certainty. The first sign that something was wrong appeared on a Tuesday morning, quiet and almost easy to ignore. Ethan woke up to the sound of his phone buzzing non-stop on the nightstand. At first, he smiled, thinking the video had finally crossed some huge milestone overnight. He grabbed the phone, blinking against the light, and opened his notifications. The views were high, sure, but the messages were different. A string of unread DMs filled his inbox, many of them from accounts he did not recognize. Some were just insults. Others were more specific. "Nice neighborhood you live in. That blue car in your driveway looks expensive. Hope the dog is okay." Ethan frowned, scrolling. A photo loaded. His street, taken from the corner, slightly zoomed in. His apartment building was visible in the background, along with the small grocery store across the road. Another message showed the entrance to his building, the faded number above the door clearly visible. He sat up straighter, the weight in his chest suddenly heavier than the blankets. For the first time, the idea that the internet might be reaching into his real life felt less like a joke and more like a hand on his shoulder. Down the hall, the sound of the shower stopped. Marco stepped out of the bathroom in a towel, checking his own phone. He walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and then froze in front of the open door. Inside, next to the carton of milk and a leftover takeout box, someone had placed a single can of Coca-Cola, perfectly scented. Marco stared at it. He had not bought soda in weeks. He closed the fridge slowly, heart beating faster, and checked the front door, locked, the chain in place, no signs of a break-in. Yet the can was there, like a reminder that meant more than it showed. His phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number. "You should be more careful with your keys." He swallowed hard. Across town, Ryan walked into the garage where he parked his car, still half asleep, earphones in, music low. He pointed his key fob at the familiar dark sedan and heard the click of the doors unlocking. As he approached, he noticed something on the windshield. A sticky ring of dried brown liquid circled the glass, like someone had slowly poured soda across the top and let it run down overnight. In the center, under the wiper blade, a small dog collar had been left. It was not Cisco's, not the same color, but it was old, with a worn buckle and a nameless metal tag that clinked softly when he picked it up. The music in his ears suddenly felt too loud. He yanked the earphones out, glancing around the garage. No one, just parked cars and humming lights. He turned in a slow circle, searching for cameras, for someone watching, for anything. Nothing. But he could not shake the feeling that someone had been close enough to touch his car, to leave the collar, to walk away unseen. That afternoon the three met at Ethan's place, the air thick with something none of them wanted to name. "This isn't just hate comments," Marco said, pacing near the window. "Someone knows where we live." "It's probably just trolls," Ethan replied, though his voice lacked its usual confidence. "People pull public info all the time, reverse image search, whatever. It's creepy, but it's not serious." Ryan set the collar down on the table between them. "They touched my car, man. That's not just online." Ethan stared at the collar, then at the photo on his phone of his building. "Okay," he admitted. "That's weird. But what are we supposed to do? Go to the cops and say, someone left a soda can and a collar. They'll laugh us out of the station." Marco stopped pacing. "We could at least take the video down," Ryan scoffed. "Now, when it's still climbing, that thing could hit 1 million. Brands are finally noticing us. You want to throw that away because someone played a prank back?" "A prank?" Marco snapped louder than he intended. "We humiliated a dog for fun, and now something is happening and none of this feels like a game." The room went quiet. Outside a siren wailed in the distance, then faded. Ethan rubbed his face with both hands. "Look," Ethan said, forcing himself to sound rational. "We delete the video now. It won't erase it. People already mirrored it, downloaded it, reposted it. It lives online forever. Taking it down just makes us look guilty." "We are guilty," Marco replied. Ryan leaned back in his chair, folding his arms. "What do you want to do then? Put up an apology? Cry on camera and say we're changed men?" Marco opened his mouth, closed it, then shook his head. "I don't know. I just know this is not normal." They did not know that their names had already been written in neat handwriting on a piece of paper in Vincent Moretti's office. Next to each name, address, place of work, family connections. Another column marked priority. In that same moment, Vincent sat with Anthony and 2 other men at the desk, the paper laid out like a quiet map. "Ethan Carter," Anthony read. 23, lives alone, parents out of state, works freelance, most of his income from the channel. "Ryan Mitchell," one of the others added. 24, lives with a roommate who doesn't appear in the videos, restaurant job on weekends, car registered under his name. "Marco Alvarez," Anthony continued, 23, shares an apartment with a cousin who works nights, no priors, not much of an online presence outside their content. Vincent listened, his eyes moving from one name to the next, weighing invisible scales only he could see. "Any of them have kids?" he asked. "No," Anthony said. "Just them." Vincent nodded once. "Good." He tapped the paper lightly. "I don't want their families, their roommates, their neighbors touched. No accidents, no stray messages to the wrong person. This is between them and what they did." The men around him nodded. They were used to lines being drawn, and they knew better than to cross the ones Vincent set. "What do you want us to do?" Anthony asked. Vincent thought of Cisco, of the video still playing in some corner of the internet, of the way the young men had laughed as if nothing had weight. He did not want noise, he wanted understanding. "Pressure," Vincent said simply. "Nothing that leaves marks, not yet. Make their lives smaller. Make them look over their shoulders. Let them feel what it's like when someone decides you're a target." Anthony made a note. "How far do we push?" "Far enough that they start asking why," Vincent replied. "And when they're ready to listen, we'll talk." Over the next few days, the pressure tightened. Ethan lost a brand email he had been counting on. The company wrote back saying they'd decided to go in a different direction due to recent controversy. His landlord, usually indifferent, suddenly brought up noise complaints from neighbors Ethan had never even met. A notice appeared in the lobby about problem tenants and behavior under review. Ryan came out of work one night to find two of his tires slashed, the car leaning exhaustedly to one side. No cameras in the lot, no witnesses. On his windshield this time, there was no collar, no soda, just a folded napkin with a single word written inside. Sorry. Marco's cousin mentioned in passing that someone had been asking about him outside the building. "Two guys," he said, trying to sound casual. "Nice clothes. Said they were old friends. Showed me a picture of you from one of your videos." Marco did not sleep that night. By the end of the week, all three met again at Ethan's place, but the energy was different now. No jokes, no cameras. The laptop sat closed on the table. The thumbnail of their infamous video still burned into their minds, even without the screen. "We need to do something," Marco said. "This isn't random." Ryan, for once, did not argue. "Yeah, I know." Ethan exhaled, looking from one to the other. "Okay, so what? We take the video down and post an apology?" Marco nodded. "At least that, it's a start." "And if that's not enough?" Ryan asked. They exchanged a look, a silent understanding passing between them. Whatever was happening, it came from someone who did not see this as just content. Somewhere, in a quiet office above a repair shop, Vincent received a message confirming what he had been waiting for. The video had been set to private, and a new post was scheduled, an apology, apparently. He leaned back in his chair, considering. "Good," he said softly. "They're starting to understand that there are consequences." But as far as he was concerned, they had only taken the first step. The first sign that something was wrong appeared on a Tuesday morning, quiet and almost easy to ignore. Ethan woke up to the sound of his phone buzzing non-stop on the nightstand. At first, he smiled, thinking the video had finally crossed some huge milestone overnight. He grabbed the phone, blinking against the light, and opened his notifications. The views were high, sure, but the messages were different. A string of unread DMs filled his inbox, many of them from accounts he did not recognize. Some were just insults, others were more specific. "Nice neighborhood you live in. That blue car in your driveway looks expensive. Hope the dog is okay." Ethan frowned, scrolling. A photo loaded his street, taken from the corner, slightly zoomed in. His apartment building was visible in the background, along with the small grocery store across the road. Another message showed the entrance to his building, the faded number above the door clearly visible. He sat up straighter, the weight in his chest suddenly heavier than the blankets. For the first time, the idea that the internet might be reaching into his real life felt less like a joke and more like a hand on his shoulder. Down the hall, the sound of the shower stopped. Marco stepped out of the bathroom in a towel, checking his own phone. He walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and then froze in front of the open door. Inside, next to the carton of milk and a leftover takeout box, someone had placed a single can of Coca-Cola, perfectly scented. Marco stared at it. He had not bought soda in weeks. He closed the fridge slowly, heart beating faster, and checked the front door. Locked, the chain in place, no signs of a break-in, yet the can was there, like a reminder that meant more than it showed. His phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number. "You should be more careful with your keys." He swallowed hard. Across town, Ryan walked into the garage where he parked his car, still half asleep, earphones in, music low. He pointed his key fob at the familiar dark sedan and heard the click of the doors unlocking. As he approached, he noticed something on the windshield. A sticky ring of dried brown liquid circled the glass, like someone had slowly poured soda across the top and let it run down overnight. In the center, under the wiper blade, a small dog collar had been left. It was not Cisco's, not the same color, but it was old, with a worn buckle and a nameless metal tag that clinked softly when he picked it up. The music in his ears suddenly felt too loud. He yanked the earphones out, glancing around the garage. No one, just parked cars and humming lights.